My name is Victor Furman. Some call me The Voice. I've always been fascinated with human nature, spirituality, science, and the crossroads at which they meet. Join me now and we will explore these topics and so much more with fascinating guests, authors, and experts who will guide us to Destination Unlimited. As a child growing up in the 1950s, my memories of my grandmother are warm and fuzzy. From the Hershey Bar always there for me in her apron pocket, her saying, "My Vicola can do no wrong," her endless collection of tchotchkes that she was so proud of, and her always wanting to make me something to eat, even though she could barely see at that point in her life in her late 80s. Linda Frisch, who is also known as Grandmother Allayah, has a slightly different set of interests, although many of them are also warm and fuzzy to me. Crystal skulls, ancient sacred relics, psychic counseling, starseed facilitating, energy healing, and hosting Circle of Hearts Radio right here on OmTimes Radio are among a few of them. Allayah has contributed on 2 books. The first, Power Crystals, Spiritual and Magical Practices, Skulls, and Alien Technology by Dr. John DeSalvo, and Ancient Wisdom for Now by Reverend Marilee Ann Snyder-Nisiak. Allayah lives, practices, and speaks in New Jersey. Welcome to Destination Unlimited, Linda Allayah Frisch. Good evening, Linda.
Hi, Victor. I'm glad, I'm going to enjoy being on here because you and I have always connected, and it's interesting to be on this side of the microphone.
That's right. I had the joy of being your guest on Circle of Hearts Radio a few months back, and now have the pleasure of reciprocating. So welcome to Destination Unlimited.
Hi, thank you.
Now, please share with our listeners a little bit about your childhood and how it created the foundation for the work that you do today.
In looking back, reflecting on my life, I realized from a very young age, I saw things and understood things that no one had any idea. I kept a lot to myself. I would lay on the ground, I'd look at the sky, and I'd see faces looking at me. I knew how to automatically heal. I had my own little clinic of insects and dead birds and everything as a very young child, and I'd bring them downstairs. I had a shelf there, and I would do my waving in my hands. No clue what I was doing. And the next day my father would, throw out all my patients. So I really had no idea whether they ever got better or I raised the birds from the dead. I really don't know. But I always had this feeling that I could do these things. And I really did a lot of things as a youngster. We used to have fencing with grapes. My father, had those war gardens and stuff, and I would go up to animals caught in the fencing, not realizing that wasn't a smart thing to do. Or else I'd walk home with big Great Danes and say, "Hi, Dad, can we bring him in?" Well, that didn't go over too well either. But anyway, when I was young, I would see people in my bedroom at night, only to find out that, it was my grandmother who died years ago or an aunt that died years ago. I used to really spook my parents out. They didn't know what to do with me. They kept on telling me, "Be quiet. They're going to take you away and put you someplace."
What a wonderful reassurance you were getting from them, huh?
Yeah, so I had this, and I was constantly crying. I'd see something, and I'd be so touched by it, I'd cry all the time. So I tell them I would see a youngster. My books were the Encyclopedia Britannica. I used to read cover to cover, and I was fascinated by ancient history. So I was the oddball of the family.
Now,
go ahead.
In many families, when we have a child who has abilities, there is usually someone, a grandmother, a grandfather, someone back in their lineage who also demonstrated the same abilities. Did you have someone like that in your family?
I think my mother, she used to have dreams, but again, it was all hush-hush. My parents were from the Ukraine, and they would always say, don't talk of the dead, or don't see this, or be quiet. It was that type of thing. So, but she would have dreams, and she would say, oh, I dreamt of muddy water. Well, that meant something to her, or, so that's about the closest, but she did not support me. She just kept on telling me, shut up. You're weird. I used to scare her. I really did.
Yeah, as I've shared many times on this program, and my friends who know me, I was labeled a child with an overactive imagination for seeing and sharing the things that I saw with others. And even though I wasn't told to shut up, I basically was said, oh, there he goes, imagining things again, until one day, and I've shared the story before, I was in my parents' room. I was 7 years old, living in Brooklyn, New York, and my beloved grandfather appeared standing in front of me, and I said, Grandpa, where did you come from? And he didn't say anything. He just smiled and then sort of faded away. And I went into the living room and I said to my mother and father, I said, Grandpa was just here. And I was told, oh, you're imagining things again, until a couple of minutes later when the phone came through that my grandfather had just passed away. So that to them was kind of an eye-opener that maybe there was something more to my overactive imagination than they were seeing. But again, especially growing up in the 50s, there was very little support for kids like us who were demonstrating this type of ability.
And I think that's why now that I'm heading toward a birthday in March, I won't tell you how old enough. And when I do the shows, I try to bring out information that helps the adults, but also to support the kids that are coming in.
Absolutely.
That
so important.
They don't have to go through what we did. I mean, we survived, made for an interesting life, but we need to cut to the chase and, offer more, get the adults in alignment, what's going on with their awakening, and help the children, too.
Absolutely. So important to encourage children in whatever abilities they manifest and demonstrate, and help them bring those along, because that's what their soul mission is, whatever they demonstrate as children. So you had these activities and these experiences as a child, and then how did it manifest in your teens and your early adulthood?
It was, again, I constantly started, and I would see things, and I got very depressed, and, I think I always tried, to kill myself a few times. I say it lightly at the time, but something always stopped me. So it was a constantly waking up, shutting down type effect. It was interesting. That's all I gotta say. But that's why I understand so much what people go through, because just probably like you, we've walked the walk.
Absolutely. And then you chose a career in nursing. How did that manifest?
It just kind of popped up. My mother was a nurse. My sister was a nurse. And they told me I would be a lousy nurse, so I was stubborn. I went into nursing. So, and then on top of it all, I became a hospice nurse, which really kind of freaked my family out.
Now, that's interesting. I didn't know that. In your capacity as a hospice nurse, did you have connection with patients, especially those in coma?
I talked to them. I learned, I always sensed that they were there. And I would get very upset when people would talk around them like they weren't there. Like, what should you saying? And they go, they don't know. And go, yes, they do. So, I mean, that never really helped the situation, but I would talk to them. And when many people transitioned, I saw their soul leave the body, and saw people there to greet them. So I used my heightened senses quite a bit, over the time to help in different things that I've done. So I have my poor husband has called me Nurse Kevorkian before I got sick. He goes, like, oh, who died this time? Yeah. But I just find it, comforting to help, them and the family. So I've always had a slight weird looking at life.
Absolutely. It's interesting. I've done a lot of hospice work myself as a volunteer, not as a professional, but as a volunteer, and have been in situations where families are present, and you can actually see the tangible, I call them tendrils of energy between the family members and the person who is in the hospice situation, where they're holding on and not letting go. And one of the things that in my ministry I've brought to these families is the gift of having final words with this person, whether they were conscious or unconscious, allowing them to express their feelings of love and also liberation of spirit. And after many of these circles where people would do that, the person who was in the hospice situation was able to release and go on to the next adventure. And it's been very beautiful and very rewarding, and I'm grateful that I've also had those opportunities. Our guest tonight on Destination Unlimited, Linda Allayah Frisch, and we'll be back with more of Linda on Destination Unlimited on the OmTimes Radio Network after these messages.
OmTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OmTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Circle of Hearts Radio is a sanctuary on the airwaves. Join me, Grandmother Allayah, in the circle on Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern, as I share information to both enlighten and nourish your soul.
I'm Paul George of the Indiana Pacers. When I was 6, my days were spent playing basketball. When I was 6, my dream was to make it to the NBA. When I was 6, my mom had a stroke. So I want you to learn to spot a stroke fast. F-A-S-T. F, face drooping. A, arm weakness. S, speech difficulty. T, time to call 911. I'm Paul George. Spot a stroke fast. Visit strokeassociation.org. Brought to you by the American Stroke Association and the Ad Council.
Hi, this is Sylvia Henderson, intuitive life coach and energy healer. Are you ready to elevate and rise way above your normal? Be sure to listen to my show, Intuitive Transformations, on OmTimes Radio, Sunday evenings at 9 p.m. Eastern. Get the inspiration you need to transform your life.
When I was little, I didn't talk for a long time. I was sensitive to lights and sounds, so I built secret hiding places where they couldn't get in. Sometimes I do the same things over and over, until one day I found out I had autism. My family got me help. Slowly, I learned how to live with it better.
Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org/signs. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
And we're back on Destination Unlimited. My guest this evening, Linda Allayah Frisch. We were talking, Linda, about your early life and your knowing of things that most of children wouldn't know who were not psychically gifted or developed, and having all of the experience that you had becoming a nurse, working in hospice situations, and then you had a life-changing event in 1999. Please tell us about it.
Well, as I said, I went back and forth with a lot of awakening spiritual awakening situations were very eye-opening, where I went into the esoteric sciences and learned a lot. So, all this back and forth, and then I would try to fit into my family situation. At that time, I was married and had 2 children, and I would totally close off, but that energy would creep up. So, go back and forth like this. So by the age of 49, it manifested as a brain tumor, the constant closing of the throat chakra. And it was right at the back of the neck, the seat of the soul, where a lot of the information comes through, a massive, brain tumor. And it came to be a situation where the doctors had told my now husband, well, get all the paperwork. She does make it through the operation, that she'll be a vegetable. And I'm just looking at these doctors, I'm going, no. And they go, oh, you're in denial. And I'm going, no. Look at these things, those x-rays. I'm going, no. And they were getting mad at me as I refused to own it. So I went to the operation, which, not even thinking about it. I mean, I don't know where my brain was. I think Hank had told me, it was like 12 hours and, all these terrible things. And I got through that, and I was in intensive care for a month, and he was constantly there with me. And that support is really important, to have somebody with you during certain situations.
Absolutely.
And and then one time, I'm on the bed, I'm hooked up to all these IVs and all these things. And I found myself over my bed, looking down at me. And I saw my husband sitting in the chair, exhausted, because he wouldn't leave me. And then I disappeared someplace, and I came to this huge field, this fence. And I'm crawling through the fence, and there's all kinds of people on the other side of the fence, but I knew them. And I got over there, and they all turned their back on me. And as usually they say you're given a choice. They told me I had to go back.
So we're talking about a near-death experience.
Yeah. And then I found myself back in the body. And my arm was itching. So, I'm scratching it, and I realize I'm pulling out all the IVs. So, we had blood all over the place.
Oh, my.
And poor Hank. What he did, for me. Got a nurse. And that was the experience. But I knew I had to come back. Didn't say I wanted to come back, but I knew I had to come back. And that opened the door to a whole different life.
Now, let me ask you something.
The second half of my life.
You were saying that he was with you that entire time. You were in that situation for almost 30 days or more than 30 days. Were you unconscious that time or seemingly unconscious? And did you hear him communicating to you while you were in that state?
No. Well, they had me on a lot of drugs, the Demerol, for pain. And because the spinal fluid was, channels were closed, it was just one big mess. But he would leave to go to work, and then he would come. But I know when some of the times got really bad, I remember him saying, don't leave. And I go, I won't. And that always stuck in my head, that I can't leave. So, I really believe it was part of that dedication of him, maybe I did make the choice.
He was the coach helping you stay.
Yeah.
Now, you had mentioned on the other side of seeing these relatives and family members and friends who had predeceased you, with their backs turned to you, which is kind of the opposite of what people describe in near-death experiences, where they're all waiting with open arms, even if they tell the person that they have a choice. But why do you think they were turning their backs on you?
I don't know. I was very upset about it, because I did all I could to crawl through this hedging to get to that field. And they were facing me while I was crawling through. But once I got past that hedge, then they all just turned around. Like, you're not wanted here. So in my type of thinking at the moment, not knowing what in the heck was going on, I came back. I have studied a lot about different people's near-death experiences. There is no pattern to them. Everyone is individual and different. It seems to be an experience of a soul decision, of awakening, or a choice, and you create this scenario in some way that you understand it. So when all these books say, you see the light, I didn't see any light. And I've read a lot of other people, like P.M. Atwater, in her studies, even with children, every experience is different. Cater to the individual.
Did you ever feel a sense of heaven doesn't want you after that experience?
Probably. They don't want to get out there. We don't want you either. No, I had this, and I didn't realize it until after all this, that I had another path to follow. Some people would have called it a walk-in. Mm-hmm. But I don't see it. To me, it was the Allayah aspect, my spiritual aspect, that was allowed to take over. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. So let's introduce our listeners to Allayah. Who is Allayah? Where does she come from?
Oh, I don't know. She's caused some confusion in my life. After I had this surgery, it was like seriously being reborn. I had to learn to eat. There was so much nerve damage. I had to learn to talk, how to keep my mouth closed, how to use my hands, use my brain, how to walk. And it was this rebirthing process. And during the process, I had asked my husband, Hank, I said, I need a computer. And he was just at the point, okay, you need a computer. I don't know what you're going to do with it, but, I'll get you a computer. And I taught myself the computer. Of course, I destroyed about 3 modems on it. Mm-hmm. But I learned to work my fingers with my commands of the brain. I retrained myself. Mm-hmm. And in exploring, to make this, brief, in exploring the computer, I never had time when I was working to get involved with crystals. So I started to look up crystals, sites, and everything. And through synchronicity, on one site, I met this Dr. Frank Liu from Hong Kong, and he was dealing with ancient crystal skulls. And we both found that I had this knowledge about jade, and ancient China. Where that came from, probably part of my akasha, I don't know. But we started communicating about jade, and that's how the doors I reclaimed all these different ancient energy relics that were part of my previous existences. Whatever I have here I have a very strong personal connection to. So then guidance had said, when you do the work with all this, call yourself Allayah. I don't know where that name came from. No clue. I looked it up, and the one definition I saw is one who shines the light on the path for others.
Beautiful.
So I fought that name. I've had forms and everything else, and I didn't want to use it. Finally, I said, okay. Now nobody else knows my name, Linda. They go, what do I call you? Anything you want.
So how does Allayah differ from Linda?
She connects to Source. She connects to the Divine Mother energy. She connects to Lemuria. She connects to Atlantis. She connects almost like the Avatar starseed, where I can look and they say, I see you. And when I look at a person, I see them. I see many of their aspects. I see their involvement, their soul paths. So that's the Allayah aspect. And it's also the aspect of service, of sharing what I know and helping in ways I can. And that's why I have gone involved with Leonie Buck and Christopher Buck with OmTimes and Healing Humanity. And I do a live feed every Saturday just to let the Allayah aspect come through and help people on Humanity Healing on Facebook.
Absolutely.
And it's amazing. I get like 20,000 people I've never seen in my life.
That's wonderful. And of course, you have your own website, which is Sanctuary with the White Dove, right?
Correct.
And how can our listeners find out more about you and that work?
That is free. I mean, if you go just even look at it, I'll have some parts of my biography there. I'll have pictures of all my ancient relics. I have a list of all the archives of my radio show. And I have services, things that I can help people with if they so desire.
Our guest on Destination Unlimited this evening is Linda, Grandma Allayah Frisch, and we'll be back with more of Linda on Destination Unlimited on the OmTimes Radio Network after these messages.
You're listening to OTR-FM, part of the IOM Radio Network.
Are you in an interfaith relationship and thinking of getting married? For 18 years, Reverend Laurie Sue Brockway has been creating personalized, loving, and romantic ceremonies for couples of all faiths and cultural backgrounds. Reverend Laurie Sue's sensitivity to the needs of interfaith couples is reflected in the compassionate and inclusive way she addresses the concerns of parents and families. Reverend Laurie Sue is also the author of several best-selling books on interfaith weddings and wedding vows. Selected as one of the top interfaith officiants by New York Magazine, Reverend Laurie Sue serves couples in the New York metropolitan area and beyond. Find out more at her website, yourinterfaithwedding.com.
OmTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OmTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Hi, this is Carly Simon for Lifebeat. The music industry fights AIDS. The AIDS crisis isn't over. There have been amazing scientific breakthroughs, but people are still dying, and your local AIDS organization needs your help more now than ever. Volunteer and make a difference.
On Destination Unlimited. My guest this evening is Linda Allayah Frisch, also known as Grandmother Allayah. She's the host of Circle of Hearts Radio here on the OmTimes Radio Network, and you can find out more about Linda Allayah and her wonderful work on the sanctuaryofthewhitedove.com. So, Linda, we were talking a little bit about your change in life when you had the near-death experience and the part of Allayah that was always part of you emerged, and the different experiences and knowledge that Allayah brought through and back into your life. And you were talking about crystal skulls. Tell us about crystal skulls and why they're so important.
They are interesting. If you look at crystal as a consciousness, instead of as this pretty solid little thing, the people that really get into crystals, we view it as a consciousness, as people view water as a consciousness. It has feelings, it imparts information. The crystal skulls throughout history have existed, and they're like reservoirs of Earth history in a solid form and an encasement. And a lot of people are opening up to them. Years ago they were used for shamanic things, or they were used for the alchemists during the Renaissance would use it to intuitively pick up information, or people would scry with them. It was always something intuitive, and it was always basically they impart information. When I first saw this crystal skulls, the modern ones, I didn't like them at all. I didn't like the looks of them. But I was very strongly guided to get one, which I did, and it was out of jade. And it worked with me in dream time. I started having all these amazing dreams, how to create these grids, what to pick up, certain amount of crystals, certain sacred geometry shapes, put it all together, and voila, it was like opening a portal to all this information. And then through synchronicity, that's how I started to have more and more contact with Frank Liu and start bringing to him all these relics and crystal skulls from the Himalayas and from ancient China. And I just have my own little ancient history sanctuary here.
Now, is there any reality in the myth of the 13 crystal skulls? I know that we had that movie, the Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull movie, that sort of did a dramatization of that. But is there any reality to that, about there are 13 special crystal skulls that kind of have this universal knowledge, and if brought together will bring some type of great revelation to humanity?
A lot of people disagree with me on this, but I say no. To me, the 13 skulls, or the 13 crystals, are aspects of us. And the 13th skull is actually who we are. It is that process of awakening, of incorporating all aspects of all your different lives, of consciously being aware and becoming that knowledgeable point of light that you are in spirit, only on earth. And this is what we're working with people who are awakening. The crystal skulls are just energy tools. That myth has some idea about the 12 around the one, the important thing, but that gives a sense of there's special things out there where people just don't realize that they themselves as spirit are very special.
So basically the power is within us, and the crystal skull or the crystals are just an external amplification or focal point for that internal information.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because crystals are the nature of all semiconductors, which is the nature of all electronics, which is the nature of all computers and cell phones and all of this stuff, and memory chips and what have you. And so it makes a lot of sense that the relationship between humanity and crystals, both natural crystals and those that are used in electronics and computers and such, is so important.
It's all about communication. Communication with what's beyond you, communication of opening your mind to the wisdom within you. the crystal skulls is that connecting point, just like in a computer. The computer chip. So if you think of 12 computer chips around you and you're the main, you're the one in the middle receiving all this information, it's just a different way of looking at it.
It'd be nice if our minds worked in gigabyte speed, though, right?
Oh, yeah.
Actually, they do. We're just our ego gets in the way of that connection speed, right?
That's true, and it's patterns of what we learn from. We learn from our ancestors. That's why you hear so much about ancestral healing. I mean, if my parents told me, oh, don't do this, or don't talk about this, or like this type of person, or don't like this. Growing up as a child, you don't formulate, you go, I don't understand why I shouldn't like somebody, because, they may be different than us. But you keep this within you. You want to be pals with them, but you have that programming from somebody else saying, don't.
Yeah.
Beware.
Yeah.
So it all kind of connects. If you just open your mind and step back and look at a larger view of things.
Absolutely. That fear-based ingraining that unfortunately many of us grew up with and sort of got out of in the 60s and 70s and unfortunately seems to be returning to society today. What can we do about that?
On a lot of the talks I have, I try to remind people who they are inside. To make, even when I got together with Charlie, the Riverman, on my show, we talk about you have the choice to be anything you want to be. You have the choice how to react. So that's where empowerment comes with. And you keep on seeding those ideas to people that, they're worth something, that they're spirit and form, and they slowly start to say, and they may start meeting other people and say, there might be something to this. If I act nasty to somebody and that person acts nasty to me, I can see the result of my actions. But if I look at that person and say, well, gee, maybe they have a bad day, then the energy dynamics change. So, a lot of us are trying to make people aware of how to work with energy and to recognize their own energy and who they are without, as one heart, instead of saying, oh, that person's special or I'm a victim. Let's wipe the slate clean and let's start looking at things differently.
Instead of looking upon others with eyes of fear or prejudgment, look upon them as aspects of the divine, which we all are aspects of the one, of the divine.
Yes, definitely. And it's starting to get through. I mean, there's a lot of chaos in the world, but people are starting to say, I'm tired of it. People are starting to say, see how medias and papers and verbally people try to rile other people up, and they're getting stronger. They're saying, I don't want to be part of this.
Yeah.
So it's happening.
Absolutely. In addition to the crystal skulls, what other types of ancient relics are you fascinated with?
Buddhist relics. I have many ancient temple pieces and pieces from Rinpoches that they used in the work, whether it's exorcism, whether it was healing, a whole lot of things. I have a lot of Kuan Yins. I have a lot of Buddhas. I have a lot of dragons. I have dragon pearls. I have jade discs. I have starseed pieces like a Dropa disc and ancient jade carvings of star beings and a lot of odd stuff.
You mentioned Kuan Yin, and my knowledge of Kuan Yin my conscious knowledge of Kuan Yin did not emerge until my late 30s when I first got involved in Reiki practice. And I think the story of Kuan Yin is something, we need Kuan Yin today. We need Bodhisattva today. Why don't you share the story of Kuan Yin?
Kuan Yin is always, I've seen her as an aspect of the divine mother of the world energy. She's the nurturer. She's the one who hears the cries of the children of earth. And she was a soul when she was in physical form that said, I wouldn't leave until I could help others. And even though her earthly body left, she just has a major influence on that loving nature for those who ever need it. Just non-judgmental, just pure love.
Absolutely. The concept of Kuan Yin or the various bodhisattvas is these are people who had human incarnations and had basically earned the right to go on without having to come back, and yet had so much love and so much compassion, and whose hearts were so open that they pledged to stay within the earthly realm until every tear was dried in every eye. And what a beautiful, beautiful sentiment.
And she's so needed.
Absolutely.
And everybody, even if they're brought up in the Christian world, people gravitate to Kuan Yin because of just the pure heart energy and her being the nurturer.
Absolutely. And related to the mother goddess in almost every culture and every faith, including Mary in Christianity. And we'll be back with Grandmother Allayah, Linda Frisch, after these words from the OmTimes Radio Network.
The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill, while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
Hi everyone, this is Shay Parker, the host of Best of the Best, which airs live right here on IOM Radio every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Pacific. I'm super excited to bring you expert guest hosts, spiritual discussions, free psychic readings, and so much more. I can promise that you will not want to miss this one-of-a-kind, fun, yet touching, down-to-earth show. Join us every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Pacific on OTR-FM. This is Shay Parker, and I can't wait to see you there.
Come on, smile. Oh, honey, he's still not smiling.
Maybe he's not a smiler.
Yeah, maybe he's just not a happy baby.
Maybe he's just being a boy.
Or maybe he's teething.
Maybe it's just a phase.
Maybe he has autism, and we can definitely do something to help.
Maybe is all you need to find out more about autism. No big, joyful smiles by 6 months is one early sign. Learn the others at autismspeaks.org/signs. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
So, I'm a dog, and I'm kind of new to this family, but I've noticed a trend. My humans do this thing where they go around and get all my toys and hide them in this basket, but it's always the same basket, and it's always the same place, and then they act so surprised when I find them, but I'm like, hello, that's where you put it last time. Humans are the worst at hide and go seek.
A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet. Be that person. Adopt. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the ShelterPetProject.org.
And we're back on Destination Unlimited. My guest tonight, Grandmother Allayah, Linda Frisch. We've been talking about her experiences, her near-death experience in 1999, which changed her life and allowed the emergence of Allayah, who is this beautiful, compassionate, and long-time spiritual being, to come through and bring these wonderful gifts to the world. And you can hear her radio show, Circle of Hearts Radio, on OmTimes Radio. Linda, when does that air?
Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
On OmTimes Radio, OTR-FM, Circle of Hearts Radio, and she also has a website featuring all of her work and the beautiful stuff that she does, sanctuaryofthewhitedove.com. So, Linda, we were talking a little bit about the healing aspect of your life, and your biography says that you hid your gifts for many years. Why?
I was afraid. When I was growing up, I got tired of being singled out. I once remembered somebody that needed some healing, and it was at church, and I had contact, the person who was the head of it, and they came to my house, and they told me I was a spawn of the devil.
Oh, my God.
So that didn't work out too good. And then when I would, I'm not a medium, but sometimes certain things come through, especially in murder cases. And I'll find myself seeing certain things, and I had a neighbor. I didn't realize I was talking to her the day before, and she was very upset. She left. And the next day, I saw a young girl that was killed, and I knew there was a connection somehow, and I approached her, and she got all very upset. And she called the New York Middletown State Police. You gotta talk to her. And then these people came. Now, this is back in the 60s, where psychics were looked at as kind of flaky. And, they came to my home, interrogated me. How do I know? What do you know? Etc. And I can't do this. I've seen a lot of weird things. Sometimes I'll read something, and I had these people contacting me about buried treasure off in the Pinelands, New Jersey, and I saw all this, only to find out they wanted me to go there to find it. And I'm going, I don't want this. So I just constantly shut down and just try to resume my life with raising my daughters as a single mother, doing my nursing. And I shut down many times just to kind of be normal, or my ex-husband thought I was some kind of freakish thing, so that's why he was my ex-husband.
That's a good reason for it, and I think many of us on spiritual paths have actually had marriages end because one partner is growing and one partner is not.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that really, until I had actually seen my now husband, except I didn't know who he was. But then when we met, it was like that twin flame thing, and he's been nothing but supportive as far as, all this and my health goes. So having a partner that you can just be your crazy self with.
Absolutely.
It means a lot.
I'm in the same type of relationship with my beloved, and it really does mean a tremendous amount. It helps you to facilitate the goals and the path that you're actually here for, and to help each other facilitate each other's path. So how did you get involved in Reiki and other forms of energy healing?
When I was a nurse, before I knew about Reiki, and I would be taking care of my patients, they would say, "Why are your hands so warm? Please touch my legs." They were at that stage where they were losing circulation. And then I just started to research what's going on. I found about Reiki. And then I started remembering past lives with Reiki. So and I used it in my own healing. That and essential oils. All of a sudden, I knew what to look for, and a lot of things with herbals. It just all came back, and it's things I did actually a lot in my own personal healing. I experiment on myself a lot. The Reiki I use on other people, but as far as the oils and the herbals and stuff, I used on myself.
You know, it's fascinating that you say that you actually had a conscious knowledge of this being with you kind of on a forever basis. And I think a lot of us who've been reawakened to energy healing have had similar experiences. I've shared the story before that when I was in the United States Air Force in the 1970s, I was stationed in Korea, and I had contracted a very virulent form of hepatitis while I was there. Actually, it turned out from acupuncture needles, which is another story for another time. But when I was in the hospital, the doctor had come to me and said that I was very seriously ill, that they were actually going to air evac me from Korea to the Philippines, and that they didn't think I would make it. And they had sent a telegram, had the Red Cross send a telegram to my mother that I was very seriously ill, and, you know, my mother was freaking out at the time. And the doctor came to me one day when he was saying these things, and I said, can I get a copy of a book of anatomy showing what a healthy liver looks like? And he said, why? I said, I don't know. I just want to see what a healthy liver looks like. And this was in the mid-'70s. I did not have a consciousness of visualization meditation, but something told me I wanted to look at a healthy liver and sort of think about a healthy liver. And he sort of laughed. He gave me the book, and I studied it, and at some point I fell asleep. And as I was going to sleep, my hands gravitated to the area of the abdomen directly over the liver, and I felt this warmth and this wonderful tingling, and I sort of like was hugging myself with this wonderful energy flowing, not knowing what it was, just sensing that it was very natural to me, and falling asleep. And the next morning, they woke me up at 5 a.m., as they always did, to take blood, and 2 hours later the nurse came in apologizing, saying, I'm going to have to stick you again. The lab messed up. And then an hour later the doctor came in and said, what did you do? And I said, what do you mean, what did I do? He said, what did you do? He said, well, you gave me the picture of the healthy liver, the book. I studied it. And then I started feeling these tingling sensations. I put my hands over my abdomen, and I sort of fell asleep. He says, well, I don't know what you did, but he says, last night you were about to die, and this morning your liver enzymes are normal, and we've never seen that happen before. And that was my first experience in this lifetime that I was conscious of this healing energy. And you would think that that would have motivated me to move forward, but I wasn't ready yet, and I went back to sleep spiritually until my late 30s when I reawakened, and all of this came to fore. You've done other forms of energy healing. What are the other forms that you work with?
Oh, gee. I actually took Qigong, where when I had the tumor, I was so off balance. I looked like I was constantly drunk, so I couldn't do Tai Chi. If I tried to walk down the sidewalk, I looked like, oh, forget it. But Qigong of energy of gathering it up and pouring it over you, that is very helpful. The Reiki, I've kind of realized a lot of it all just incorporates into being a channel for source and focus.
Absolutely.
So there's many names to it. Reiki is a wonderful starting point, but I want people to realize that you really have a great deal of power. Once you understand the core emotional reason of the disease, why you created disharmony in your body, you can then start releasing that and changing your patterns. You just can't put band-aids on things. You have to go deeper and figure, really see what caused the imbalance of your body, and then move on. So people have a lot of power over their own healing. And doctors are good. I believe in integrated medicine. Sometimes you need a doctor. You break an arm, you really need to have that arm put in a cast.
Absolutely.
So, the balance between the two, I think, is very workable.
I had a wonderful teacher whose motto was, never instead of, always in addition to. Put together, we're given all of these gifts, be it allopathic medicine, traditional medicine, Eastern medicine, energy work. We're given all of these gifts. Why not use each and every one of them?
Because we were taught to believe that you're not smart enough, or you're hallucinating, or you're making it up.
Yeah.
You need to remind people that they know a lot more than they realize.
Absolutely. Tell us about how you created the sanctuaryofthewhitedove.com.
I used to have another website, Sanctuary of the Ancients, and that I kind of grew past over the years. And I had created forums purely because I must be a stubborn old goat, when I was in many forums to learn things, and people ahead of those were saying, oh, you're silly, you're not making sense. I said, oh, forget that. I'm going to start my own group, and I'm going to actually listen to the people and let them bring out their own information, because I believe everybody is so brilliantly smart. So then the Sanctuary of the White Dove, the dove had to do with healing. Mary Magdalene with the Essenes, she had a group of followers called the Priestesses of the Dove. So it was I looked at it as a healing site because I had it created by a wonderful woman, Sharon Pitt, in England. And it has to do with the crystal guardianship work and everything else which I do in a line of service, whether it's radio shows to try to bring out information to people. We do things in ways that we can. So it's a safe spot. All the things I do, I consider a sanctuary, a space of safeness.
Absolutely. Linda Allayah Frisch, thank you for all the wonderful work that you do and the message that you bring, so important in our world today. And thanks for just being my friend. I think it's just a joy and a privilege to call you my friend.
Thank you, Victor. I really appreciate this. I enjoy our friendship. We're very much the same. Two crazy people. Absolutely.
Two crazy kids from the 50s and 60s. And thank you all for joining us tonight on Destination Unlimited. I am Victor the Voice Furman. Have a wonderful week.